Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! Which is based on a blog of the same name because we watch TV, right? That's what we peddle here. Not other things. Not vibrators. Just saying. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening in or checking out our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For at Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panelists and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and via Google Play to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including but not limited to Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., New Girl, The Vampire Diaries, The Originals, Orange is the New Black, The X-Files, Supernatural, Gotham, Once Upon a Time, The Good Place, and the DC Television Universe or Arrowverse on the CW. Plus, new episodes are in the works, including revisits for The 100, Doctor Who, Game of Thrones, Stranger Things, American Horror Story, Fuller House, How to Get Away with Murder, a series of unfortunate events, and the Marvel's Defenders panel will talk Season 2 of Jessica Jones. A final visit, I promise it's coming, with our Broadchurch panel to say goodbye to the mystery drama from across the pond. We'll be launching new panels covering Sense8, iZombie, The Crown, Schitt's Creek, and Will and Grace. And because we look back at shows now past, we'll be looking back at one of our most popularly requested panels of all time, Friends, It's Ballyhooed, It's Coming, as well as a one-and-gone series called Battle Creek. By the way, did you know that CPU also from time to time goes live? We've been live from the Bunker, comedy outlet Mondays at Dog Story Theater and Grand Rapids Comic Con. We're planning more live appearances and other cool stuff, so make sure you like us or follow us at our Facebook page, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, and or our Pinterest at CPU Podcast, or subscribe to the blog, our YouTube channel, our iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Play. In the meantime, if you don't hear a show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews and we always seek new panelists, so if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any of those outlets I've mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback! Just do it the solemn Frankie way, because it's nicer. That's all I'm saying. Today, we're around the water cooler as a continuation of a two-part miniseries in which CPU catches up on quirky Netflix comedy, Grace and Frankie. In this episode, part 2 of our miniseries, we're discussing Season 3, which was released in its entirety to the Netflix streaming library on March 24th, 2017, and Season 4, which was released in its entirety to Netflix on January 19, 2018, each with a total of 13 episodes, which means, for the record, that the show is legally available to Netflix subscribers exclusively, as it is Netflix-produced original content. To remind the listener, Grace and Frankie is an American comedy drama web television series created by Marta Kaufman and Howard J. Morris. The series stars Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin in the title roles of Grace and Frankie, two unlikely friends who are brought together after their husbands announce that they're in love and plan to get married. Sam Waterston, Martin Sheen, Brooklyn Decker, Ethan Embry, June Diane Raphael, and Baron Vaughn co-star in supporting roles. The series follows Grace, a retired cosmetics mogul, and Frankie, a hippie art teacher, whose husbands, Robert and Saul, are successful divorce lawyers in San Diego. Grace and Frankie's lives are turned upside down when Robert and Saul announce that they're in love with each other and are leaving their wives. Now the women who have never particularly liked each other are forced to live together and learn to unite and cope with those difficulties. And of course, in February 15 of this year, Grace and Frankie was renewed for Season 5. Today, in the second episode of our Grace and Frankie catch-up miniseries, we will be focusing specifically upon Seasons 3 and 4 of the Netflix sitcom with our ready and raring panel, namely Kristen, Krista, Amie, and Samantha. Before we digest more of Grace and Frankie, though, I'm going to take a moment to take our panel's temperature because, as we all know, sometimes a TV show can take turns for the better or the worse in our heads, or can continue its level of awesomeness or lack thereof, depending upon the story evolution. As always, it should be noted that all of our panelists have viewed the entire show to date and may discuss sensitive plot points, so for those of you who are not caught up on Grace and Frankie, listen at your own risk, as there are going to be major spoilers. Welcome back, panel. How are you?
Hi. Hello.
What's going on?
Hello. Very excited to continue talking about Grace and Frankie.
Awesome. Everybody's got to say hello, Amie.
I said hello and I was muted. I was totally talking.
It's cool. Honestly, it's probably okay, and a good prompt for me to remind our listener we have transitioned partially into an online format today, and so everybody's talking via a platform that I'm not going to name unless they agree to give us money. And if you hear any weird sound things, I'm doing my best, but that's kind of what we're doing. We're experimenting. So because we're back talking about Grace and Frankie in our part 2 of this particular mini-series, and we're going to be talking about seasons 3 and 4, what I'm going to do is take the panel's temperature, which means we're going to review the standard CPU character question that changes with each show we do. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, I didn't really change it this time for these 2 seasons because, if nothing else, these characters are pretty darn constant. Their situations may have changed somewhat, but is it enough to have changed the descriptions? No. So you're just going to have to go with what I originally did. Okay? Okay. They're all nodding. So, how would you rate your interest in Grace and Frankie now that you have watched all 4 seasons? So after the last 2 seasons, how do you feel about it nowadays? What can you say? You're ecstatic about everything this show has to offer. It's given you a new lease on life and you're ready to sing your happiness and joy for the show to the rooftops. In fact, it makes you feel free as nothing has in years, like Robert Hansen. Do you really love it, but you feel guilty for doing so? You know it's not your family's and even some of your friends' cup of tea, but it makes you happier than you've been in years, and you believe that your loved ones will watch it and will come around to your way of thinking once they properly express their feelings in a healthy, constructive way, that is, like Saul Bergstein. You have so many feelings about this show. You're up, you're down, you're high, you're hiding from earthquakes, because this show about septuagenarians is so wonderfully new and exciting. Whatever you are, this show is nothing like you've ever seen before, and it leaves you with so many feelings, though you do relate to the times at which it is prone to melodrama for laughs, like Frankie Bergstein. It's messed up in all sorts of ways, but you're willing to go with it because that's what a cool, hip, young business owner has to do nowadays. Besides, you like more of it than you care to admit, especially Frankie. She's like your coolest aunt. Like Brianna Hansen, you did not like it or anything about it at first until you became accustomed to the situations being portrayed. You then started to relax and found the show to be not half bad or not as bad as you thought it might be after all. In fact, it's become a great comfort to you in times of stress and emotional peril, like Grace Hansen. Do you think it's all right as things go, but really you're spending most of your time trying not to fall off the wagon, and as such you aren't so apt to pay attention to what's going on with this show? Like Coyote Bergstein. Do you dutifully watch it because your family watches it? However, the show is deeply flawed to you and you're mostly only going along with it because that's what you have to do out of loyalty for your family, like Nwabudike or Bud Bergstein. Or you don't like it, you can't deal with it, everything is drama and weird. The alcoholic character is creepy while complicatedly attractive, and the adjustment to 2 gay fathers leaves you squeamish, and you're really just trying to do the best you can with what you've got as far as this show is concerned, if you even know yourself, or maybe you don't know yourself. Like Mallory Henson, who would like to start?
Hi, I'm Kristen.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi, I'm back again. Last time I was Frankie, and this time I'm still Frankie.
Okay.
I'm still only one person, so that's an accomplishment.
It is. Why are you still Frankie?
Because I still love the show. I think it's wonderful and it's great. And I don't know, you don't see a show about senior citizens all that often and everything that they kind of go through. So, and it's funny. It's so funny. Especially seasons 3 and 4 are just out of the park. So, yoo-hoo, Frankie.
Welcome back, Kristen.
Thank you. This is Samantha.
Hi, Samantha.
Hi. I also continue to be Frankie. Maybe a more enthusiastic version of Frankie, though, because these 2 seasons, as Kristen said, just get better and better. There's so many one-liners and so much fun banter. I just love it. I will note that I'm surrounded by a lot of buds because I'm trying to slowly convert other people into watching this show. And I feel like they're only doing it for me at this point, but they'll become Frankies too. I'm very confident.
Well, hopefully they're listening, because then we can test that theory later on.
Yep.
Welcome back, Samantha.
This is Amie.
Hi, Amie.
And I'm back.
You are back. Who were you last time?
I was Frankie last time.
You were.
And I was reading over these descriptions thinking, did I change my mind? But I definitely am her still. I'm still excited by the show. We'll see what if that continues. But yeah, Frankie.
Welcome back, Amie.
Thank you.
For me this time, last time I was Robert and Brianna. I'm firmly in Brianna camp for these ones. There are certainly highlights, but it's more individual episodes that I love instead of the entirety of seasons 3 and 4.
Did you say your name?
I'm Krista.
Hi, Krista. Welcome back, Krista. And of course, my name is Kylie. I am both moderating and participating as I did the last time. The last time I was Frankie with a dash of Brianna. I would probably still keep it there because I do love the show. I actually agree with the observations that the show gets better in seasons 3 and 4. Particularly season 3, I think, is a very, very strong season. But I would also keep the Brianna piece of it in there just because, Frankie is like my coolest aunt. And it is still sort of messed up in a few ways just because of what they talk about sometimes. But, I don't think it's a flaw. I just am keeping my same answer. So welcome back to all of you. This one, now that we're in part 2 of our mini-series, we're just going to launch straight into it. Tell me, what did you think of season 3? Season 3 now. At this point, Grace and Frankie are launching their vibrator business, courtesy of Babe's departing gift at the end of season 2. Well, and Grace's inspiration from using it. And then also Frankie has her art show. That happens in this one. Robert and Saul retire. Robert starts a theater career in the community theater playing John Adams in 1776. Which is a big deal in the San Diego area, apparently. And then we have a few new wrinkles for the kids, particularly Bud gets a new girlfriend whose name is Allison.
Indeed.
Allison.
I don't hate her. I think she's funny.
Okay.
I'll explain why if you want me to right now, otherwise I'll wait.
You go right ahead, Krista. This is the what did you like, what didn't you like question.
Okay, so Allison, her character is annoying. Everyone else's reactions to her are just so excellent that even though she is obnoxious, she adds so much comedy to the rest of the show that it's kind of worth it to me. Notice my best things I could say about her was I don't hate her. So, it's not like she's my favorite or anything.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that's the point of that character for sure. I could do without her, but she did, I will admit, eventually it took a long time. She eventually grew on me when they gave her more than just the moments as his...
Celiac disease. She improved once they gave her more than celiac disease.
Right, well... For me, she improved once they gave her more scenes that had more substantial dialogue and we could find out a little bit more about her.
She's one of those characters I love to hate. So I feel like I would miss her if she wasn't there, like as Krista said, based on the reactions of everyone else. But man, she's annoying.
And yet she works. She works because, why wouldn't they have a character like that? There's so many weird things about this show that are not traditional at all, and so many people who are flawed that she just, for her, it comes off comical, and it is a part of it's annoying, but the other part of it's but of course, so somehow it works for me.
Yes.
I don't know. I just think she's annoying. She's probably she's my least favorite character on the show. She does kind of redeem herself a little bit towards the end of season 4. But at the outset, I just wanted her to go away. Not my favorite addition, but she starts growing on me later, but I don't know if that's going to hold.
No, I'm with you, Kristen. That's kind of what I was touching on, but yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, she's my least favorite character too. I don't think they're trying to make her more, but at the same time, she's playing every stereotype and every sort of negative perception that older generations have of younger generations. I'm in a middle generation, so I make no commentary other than that. I'm just saying that I think that's the show's subtle dig from boomer to millennials, if you will, or even post-millennial, but I don't think she's that young. And you can take that or leave that, I guess, but I find her kind of pointless until we get into season 4. In this season, she's just completely... She drags down things. But people do react very well. I guess there's comedy in that. There is just better comedy elsewhere. So.
Well, and for me, it's as you get to know the characters and become very familiar with them, it's one of those like, well, she makes Bud happy, and I really like Bud.
Yeah.
So I guess it's fine.
Exactly. So that's real lukewarm. Well, that's all right. That's probably what they're going for at the very least. It'll be interesting to see if there's anyone who reacts to this and thinks that Allison's just the bee's knees of supporting characters. Either way.
She does have good timing.
She does.
Sorry, I rewatched it really, really recently.
Fair
Her
enough.
timing in the art show when she's describing all of her ailments is quite something.
Quite something.
Brianna started dating a gigolo, or
She did.
hooking up with one.
Well, and that's because she couldn't put the label on her and Barry, so Barry sort of left, not feeling comfortable working there anymore and everything, and just didn't see a future, and she couldn't commit kind of a deal. So her and Mallory go out to a club, and she starts flirting with a guy that she thinks is like just a normal guy.
And he's not.
No, he's charging for his services, which she takes up on him repeatedly after meeting him. So what did we think about that storyline?
I think Brianna's going through some stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I took away from that.
I think it was kind of an oddly character-building moment for her that maybe she hadn't considered the idea of something permanent as kind of a real possibility for her life, but then because she wouldn't make that commitment, Barry actually left, and she actually cared, which I think might have been new for her. It was nice seeing Brianna care about another human. We don't often see that.
As opposed to the dog named
she has-
Spit?
She loves her dog.
Yes.
I mean, at least she has that capacity.
She is kind to animals.
Yeah, I was very sad to see Barry go. You guys know I have the heart emojis for Barry.
You do.
At the same time, even as he was leaving, I was like, oh man, I hope he comes back. So I'm sure they had that in the plan at the time. But as Krista said, you sort of have to realize what you're missing in order to really appreciate it.
Oh, profound statement. That applies to both sides of the camera. What layers in this show?
I think it really also showed how much Barry, loved her because he did come back,
Yes.
which, I don't know, warms my heartstrings.
Just the one? Well, I mean, I think it might have been you who said it the last time, or maybe someone else did, that Barry humanizes Brianna, which means that he's instantly likable. I mean, there's something about him that's very accessible, not only to her, but to all of us. And I enjoy that character. I mean, I think he's kind of the every person's glimpse into what it would be like to live in this odd, strange, quirky family situation. And then also to date a particularly A-type, career-type woman who doesn't seem like the type to settle down, but maybe that will change as they progress. We haven't even talked about the vibrators yet. Somebody talk about the vibrators.
I was so happy about the vibrators.
Thank you for that enthusiasm. But seriously, tell me why.
Well, it's so hard to not just feel a lot of joy about the entire vibrator situation that they get themselves in. It's so, I think, very on the nose for Grace to sort of experience one that's uncomfortable and have her business mind take that over and be like, oh, this could be so much better. How can we capitalize on this? And then just get the ball rolling.
It's very empowering, I guess. And you don't often see older women on television discussing, it's hard to open a condom and things like that. And I think that's nice. It's nice that you don't just have to be a grandma on television. So just like a general roles for women type of a thing.
Okay, so season 3, when they go to the tech startup company.
They do.
Oh my gosh. Them trying to sell their awesome, what is it? Vibrant.
Mm-hmm.
Vibrant. Yeah.
When they go to the tech guys and they're explaining it to him, and he's like, "Oh no, that's great. Like, we're totally behind it, but we don't do that." I don't know. That was hilarious. A real funny moment with the laser tag in the waiting room, and it just shows how they feel like the workplace has changed from their generation to this new younger generation that's coming up.
Which it has, but I'll just know that my workplace does not have laser tag, and I would like to find the workplace that does. Thank you very much. Just saying.
That sounds horrific, but that's just me, because I don't like talking to people at work if I can avoid it. So.
It's all coming out on the podcast. Have you watched Daria, Krista?
No.
That is your assigned homework. You would understand her and commiserate.
People are the worst, it's true. Except for you guys, who I love.
Hearts.
Hearts.
All right.
So let's see, what else happened in season 3?
I'm with Henrietta. Isn't that in this season?
No, I think that's next season.
That's season 4.
Is that season 4?
It is.
Okay. It all kind of runs together with the vibrators.
Yeah.
That is kind of a longer story that they take. What does happen is that Frankie learns that Grace has a gun.
Oh, God.
Oh, yes, the gun.
Makes the decoy, and Grace shoots the decoy in the head.
Yeah, that wasn't a great moment for Grace.
But it was hysterical for us.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Oh.
That was comedy gold.
Mm-hmm.
All the reactions that those two women had to the situation was probably one of the best sort of ensemble-y moments between the two, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. Yep.
And when the policeman at the door was like, "So you have a gun, right?" She's like, "Yeah, of course." And it was a very just nice little, ribbon on the end of that scene.
Yes. What else? What else did you like or not like in this season?
Everything with the community theater.
You liked it or didn't?
Loved it.
Okay.
Everything.
Oh, I'm with you, girl. Mm-hmm.
I mean, 1776. What a better one to do with a bunch of gay men. I mean, really. It was kind of an inspired choice.
I thought it was hysterical.
Oh my God. It was my favorite part of season 3. I'm not going to lie. Even more so than the vibrators.
I didn't have that love. I didn't in any way dislike that part. And, I mean, don't get me wrong. 1776 was the best choice. The director guy really bugged me.
Who was played by Tim Bagley from Will and Grace, by the way.
I
That's where
didn't
he's
enjoy
from.
his character. I like the dynamic of Saul not getting cast and having to be the supportive partner and then getting in the fight with the protesters. Like, that was all fun.
Oh my gosh, the fight with the protesters were everything he ended up doing to the kid. That was unintentionally very, very funny. I'm a nice person, I promise, but I didn't mind watching the kid get doused with pop. Or coffee, whatever it was.
I don't know that I had strong feelings either way, either. I just thought it was a really good situation. I think it set up Robert and Saul's future season really well. This whole, Robert has this grand new... I mean, let's just face it. There's a lot of theater people involved in this current panel, and there was a lot to relate to in the whole situation set up by Robert entering the theater. And not only entering the theater, they both auditioned. Saul just didn't get a role at all, and Robert ended up getting the lead role. So, the politics. Oh no.
Politics, 1776.
It does.
Okay. I was just thinking back, I don't know that Saul even wanted to be a part of that at first, did he? And it was only after he was basically snubbed that he got an attitude, right?
I think Saul honestly wanted to do it with Robert at first, but when he didn't get the part, Robert started to have all the social soirees with all his castmates, and that's when Saul started to have more of a problem with it because he wasn't being included. And then that's how, when the protesting, when that all started, that became Robert's way to sort of reciprocate and be included or including with Saul.
Gotcha. It did seem like an odd transition. I mean, it ended up working out, but it almost seemed a little cliche at first.
Another important point in this is Coyote's efforts to get clean and to stay an alcoholic/Narcotics Anonymous. He meets a new girl who they agree not to have sex until they've been in the program for a while, but also it's very important to note that because Allison and Coyote cannot stand each other at all, and Coyote was living with Bud for the time he was trying to get clean, Coyote ends up getting his own living arrangement in a tiny home.
The tiny house on wheels.
I love the tiny house.
Parked outside of Mallory's.
Vibrator, but I love it.
It's so perfect for Coyote.
I just want to know where they got
it. It makes perfect sense for him.
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
It's funny. I like it.
Is it in this season where he parks it outside Mallory's house, or is that season 4?
Yeah. At the end of the season,
Yeah,
he parks it outside her house.
He parks it outside Mallory's house.
Mm-hmm. And then Mallory leaves Mitch, her husband, because A, she thinks she's in a joyless marriage, but otherwise suspects he's cheating on her.
Mm-hmm. Kind of about time that happened, honestly.
Was it ever confirmed that he was cheating?
I don't know that it was confirmed as much as it was suspected.
It wasn't confirmed. They didn't confirm it at all, but he does get a new car, and I don't know if that's season 3 or 4, but
I think that's 4.
Yeah, she's not happy about it.
I feel like season 3 and 4 run together more in my mind than seasons 1 and 2 did, or even 2 and 3, because the themes are so consistent. And they're building the businesses and everything just continues, mostly because they're past all of the separation and figuring out what they're going to do with their lives. They're just living it now.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest piece of this plot is that Frankie and Jacob, again played by Ernie Hudson, have been in a relationship for a while. And he asks her to move to Santa Fe because that's where his family lives. And she has to make the decision whether or not to go, especially because the vibrator business is taking off, but also because she's become such besties with Grace. So what do we think about that? Because that also informs the cliffhanger on this season, quote unquote.
It makes perfect sense to me that she would be conflicted. I think it's very endearing that the story arc and the character arc has brought her to a point where Grace is a huge part of whether or not she goes. And what that does for her and how Grace influences a lot of her decisions. I thought it was very genuine. It made it hard for me to watch because I felt for her so much in that moment.
Well, as much as I adore Jacob, I mean, I love Ernie Hudson as an actor and the character. It almost seemed kind of unfair to me for his reasoning to be, I want to be so close to my family, because he's inherently asking her to leave her family behind since her kids are so close. If you set aside the Grace relationship altogether too, it didn't seem quite equal to me.
I agree with that. That's one of the reasons why I was struggling to react or to share my reaction, because I like that character so much, Jacob. I think in many ways he's unlike the other men in the same age group on the show. But that is kind of a tall demand. At the same time, he does at least acknowledge verbally that it's a tall demand. I don't know. Obviously,
it made me think that he wanted to leave the show, or he had a scheduling arrangement thing, just because it didn't totally seem to gel with the character. Because I mean, he lived away from his kids apparently forever, so it made me think that potentially he had a scheduling conflict.
So finally, at the opening night of 1776, Frankie actually has a small stroke that she suffers while in the audience, and Allison, our favorite, reveals that she's pregnant, and Frankie does eventually make the decision to go to Santa Fe. So what do we think about the end of the season?
I thought she had a stroke while they were driving, and then she lost control of half her face.
Was it while she was driving?
Yeah, she's with Grace, and then everybody had to leave the musical to go to the hospital while Robert was on.
You're right.
And apparently she had a similar situation about 10 years previous, which leads to think it's, very serious. I thought it was, a natural reaction would be that I thought it was very realistic, and it showed a very truthful aging process. This is what these sort of things happen. You find out that you have illnesses, and, the likelihood of 4 people over 60, one of them not having a serious medical issue is fairly unlikely. So it was nice that it's terrible for Frankie, obviously, but it was truthful.
Anything else you want to say about season 3?
I liked the hot air balloon part at the end. such an epiphany, and it was so cute, and I think so fitting of their relationship, where Grace would immediately think of Frankie in that moment.
I agree. That was a really beautiful scene. And I love hot air balloons anyway, but just the whole symbolism in it was really, really pretty to me.
I agree. I thought it was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, it was a great way to leave season 3.
Excellent. So now let's talk about season 4, which is the most recent season. Now, I don't know if there's much to say from a sort of an overhead standpoint, because this one was more situationally based, I think, than the first 3 seasons. But I will say that Frankie actually decides to move back at some point from Santa Fe because it's just, well, there's a breaking apart. She's kind of going there part of the time and coming back part of the time. It's a very weird situation. We have Grace having Cherie move in because Frankie has left, and Cherie is played by none other than Lisa Kudrow, who's best known as Phoebe and or Ursula from Friends, and she's a manicurist and a widow who's being ill-treated by her horrible, nasty stepchildren who've locked her out of her house because they think she's a gold digger because her husband was significantly older than her. And then we have Robert and Saul doing all the gay rights rallies and getting arrested a ton, apparently. And also, Bud and Allison start the season, and please comment on if this is even a thing. They throw a discover the gender of their child party, otherwise known as a scavenger hunt at the beach house. So what did we think of season 4?
Well, you failed to mention one of my favorite parts of season 4, and that's Nick.
Played by Peter Gallagher.
Oh, yes.
Love Nick. Oh my gosh.
From the OC.
He's so,
among
he's
other things.
Well, among other
and
things.
I just love him, and I'm so glad that he was in season 4 for very many reasons. But for everything that you mentioned, I thought it was really, I thought the whole season was diving into a completely, new shift for where the show is going. Which is cool because it could easily become very routine. And it's, again, shaking things up a bit with the development of the characters. And what I love about it is it's building on the kids more. Whereas season 1 and 2, I don't think really did that.
We should mention Nick. He actually was introduced in season 3. Nick tried to poach the vibrator from Vibrant because he's part of a rival, I don't know, beauty products, cosmetics, sex toys business. I'm not even sure what he does. But anyway, he tries to get that business, and then he ends up finding himself unerringly attracted to Grace, who is probably 20 years older than him. And she realizes this because she's no slouch, but they start a relationship. However, for Grace, this is all about how can she have a relationship with this younger man and grow old gracefully, as it were.
I love how she came to terms with that, too, and kept pushing him away, and that moment in the kitchen where she takes off, the fake eyelashes and all the makeup, and she's just like, this is what it is, and for him to, it was such a genuine moment to me of yes, I know who you are, I'm still interested. That was just incredible to me.
That was very sweet.
Yeah, I loved it.
And you don't expect him to be that type of guy, but he ends up being that type of guy. Because he is played by Peter
Especially
Gallagher.
with the big gestures.
Yes.
And everything. You think he's just sort of showboaty all the time. There's a nice little switch.
And other than the
But it was
OC,
nice to see
he
his
was the
face after knee
comatose.
surgery.
What did you say, Krista?
Even though he's a big grand character, he still can't handle, her stitches and faints after her knee surgery. It humanized him in a way that I thought was nice. I mean, that was kind of fairly, not early on, but we were still getting to know him. And it was nice that he wasn't just this big showboaty, let's throw money at the problem character all the time.
I was just saying that, yes, though Peter Gallagher was on the riveting CW drama, The OC, he was also the comatose guy in While You Were Sleeping that Sandra Bullock thought she was in love with, not Bill Pullman. Just for the record, a romantic comedy for the ages. What about Cherie? Please let's talk about her. Because she's Phoebe, but not really.
No, not really.
I was not a fan of Shuri.
Really?
Really.
Oh, I thought she was hysterical.
I couldn't wait for her to move on.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning of the season, I was like, oh, I hope she's not a regular thing now. Just too shrill for my taste.
And she wasn't for a while. I was surprised at how short-lived she was on that season.
Which was awesome, because I also, this could be really tedious really quickly, and was glad to see it kind of wrap up. And it wrapped up nicely, and it didn't feel rushed, but it wasn't going to be an ongoing, we have this roommate we don't know what to do with, oh no, trope.
Right. And it gave, really, she was more of a vehicle, I think, for Frankie moving back from Santa Fe, to sort of get her and Grace into doing their antics again.
Yeah.
And that was, of that entire arc, my favorite part of it when they were breaking into the house.
Agreed.
Like, okay, you get to see them sort of in their natural habitat again.
When one of them pretended to be the real estate agent.
Yeah.
Grace.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this season had all the antics.
It did have all the antics. I like her. Okay, she was shrill. I think she was trying to be something other because you see Lisa Kudrow and you immediately think Phoebe. I think she knows that too. I think she was channeling what's her name in Legally Blonde. I think she was trying to make her own take, kind of with that character. It reminded me a lot.
The nail technician in Legally Blonde?
Yes, who's the character name I can't think of, and I can't think of the actress's name either right now.
Jennifer something, I think.
You're right, probably. So I thought she was going for something. I agree that I'm glad that it didn't last longer than 3 episodes. I thought 3 episodes was a really good length for that arc. I agree with Samantha. I thought the breaking in was hysterical. That was one of my favorite episodes of the whole show, just because it was a little more sitcom-y in some ways, but it was Grace and Frankie and Jane and Lily playing off each other in the best ways possible.
Mm-hmm. They do such a good job of that.
The Google told me. Her name is Jennifer Coolidge, and the character's name is Paulette
Bonafonte.
Yes, that's it. That's who I thought she was trying to be. Just sort of a high-pitched, not quite Phoebe voice.
Yeah, and everything was bedazzled.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, actually, and you saying that almost makes me like her slightly more.
Yay! I've achieved a 12% increase in likability for this character. Honestly, I think season 4 is probably my favorite season.
Same.
Yes, I think
Season 4 is by far the best.
Between the scavenger hunt, which we have to talk about, and all the protests and stuff, but also the pop-ups. We get the pop-ups to sell the vibrators. We get Frankie being declared legally dead because she needed to pick up a piece of mail and told a postal worker while in disguise that her good dear friend Frankie was dead, and that led to a mess of trouble for her the whole season. Plus, she tries to reconnect with her estranged sister, who's played by none other than Talia Shire. For those of you who like Rocky and the Godfather movies, she's like a big deal. So, what about all of these things?
Oh, Frankie declaring herself legally dead. Just all the stuff that she's like, oh, look at all the benefits of this. I don't have to pay taxes. I don't have to do this or that. But then when she tries, what does she try to go do? Does she get arrested or something?
No, she's babysitting her new granddaughter, and she can't buy anything because she doesn't have any credit cards now.
Yeah.
And she can't get home, and her phone dies, and then Bud tells her she can't, watch her...
Oh, that's right. She gets lost, and she ends up, in Mexico.
Yep.
Almost in Mexico.
Almost in Mexico. That's right. Yeah, and then there's this whole fiasco of how do they get her declared not legally dead, and then they have, this Frankie, you're not dead party.
Yes, they do. And she actually has Saul to help her navigate the legal paperwork of getting her back to the land of the living.
Of all the storylines that we've had, that one was by far for me the weirdest, the most why in a good way, but also in a I like that character so much. Why would she do that? Kind of frustration on my end.
Well, it's well established that she's high half the time, and she's also just, emotionally all over
all that. I get all that. But still.
I just love when her and Saul team up, and they're wearing the bunny ears, and that goes awry, and it's so much better than if they had actually gone and released animals and gotten arrested, because it's so like, okay, I guess we're having lunch now. It's so random, and it's so the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite episodes was the death stick, one where they realized that their vibrator killed that lady.
But she died doing what she loved.
She died doing what she loved.
She was their biggest
She sure
fan.
did.
And that's the I'm Henrietta shirt.
Yes,
Yeah, so that comes into play.
She was their biggest fan. She gave them all the recommendations on the social media, and they were going to go visit her as to like cheer themselves up because Grace was struggling with Nick. Frankie was legally dead and had just broken up with Jacob, so they were trying to give themselves a pickup, and that's what they learned. They learned that she died, just like Kristen said, doing what she loved.
There's no other way to put that. I mean, realistically.
Which did kind of then lead into kind of the ending, because I've noticed with the show, like the last 3 or 4 episodes kind of are a complete story, and the ongoing problems with the leaking that became the best on third floor.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't actually really talk about that yet, about how the house started falling apart.
Right, and then the contractors stole all their money and pipes.
It's so sad because that beach house is so beautiful. I just keep thinking, how can they... I mean, I guess if they let it sit, but it just fell apart all at once.
Yeah, the pipes were leaking. Like Krista said, the big bathtub fell through to the kitchen.
There were rats,
and yeah.
I mean, and I think it goes back to that whole, the telling the stories of people who these women want to continue to be very independent, and they don't want to ask for help, but they also don't want to seem helpless. So they try to do things on their own, and they get taken advantage of. And I just feel really bad for them. But it makes sense in the why they would tell this kind of story, and why that would be part of their journey.
Yeah. Well, and that kind of leads us to the end of the season 2 with, I was so frustrated with the kids where they played Grace and Frankie off of each other to get them to go into a nursing home because they felt that they couldn't be independent anymore because of what happened to the house and getting taken advantage of by the contractors and Frankie's stroke and all that stuff.
Because they're kind of
all the kids.
And it's like it's a moment where they're doing it for their, I guess, what they think is their own good, but there's so many restrictions and so many things taken away that made them who they are.
Yeah.
Them escaping was pretty great, though.
But that was after we were there, 3 months with them in the nursing home? Like that was it 6 months, 3 months? It was like a fast forward?
It was.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that they did that, because I thought, oh no, are we going to have a whole season of them living
in the nursing home?
Yeah. And so I was really glad that they compressed it. As depressing as the very end cliffhanger of the season was, I liked how they both came to the realization of, oh, we got played.
Yeah.
And then the antics of, we're breaking out.
Yeah, with the golf cart.
Yeah.
They broke into the one guy's storage locker where they stored all the confiscated items from the residents, and they grabbed Frankie's her fondue pot, I think it was.
And then they stole a toaster.
And they stole a toaster because they needed a new one, and then driving the golf cart to the beach to get to the beach house, and then the sad moment of walking up and realizing that not only did the kids put the house on the market, but that the beach house had sold.
Which I have my own thoughts about.
Which are?
Oh, I'm hoping Nick bought it or something.
Same! Me too! Me too!
I'm like, please let it be Nick. Please let it be Nick. That doesn't surprise me, Kristen. We often have the same reaction.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
One mind.
So,
I know.
Adorable, and that'd be really cute. I would be interested.
But if it's not
it'd be great to finally believe someone loves her.
I'm gonna be shocked.
Maybe Grace can finally believe someone can love her for who she is. Maybe.
I didn't like that he was off in Spain or China or wherever he was. He must have had another commitment, because that felt very like, oh, he's not here because of this. He definitely, he had all those wonderful moments, and then he just was gone. I feel like his presence, or his lack of presence, was felt near the end of the season. But that last episode in particular was the first time I'd gotten to the end of a season and I hadn't realized it was the last episode as I was watching. I had that moment, and I kept waiting for Netflix to just carry on to the next episode, or judgily ask me, are you still watching? And when it just ended, I was like, wait, what? No. We can't just end there. So very happy that it's coming back.
Yeah, the pacing was incredible on this season. I like that they raised the stakes for just about everybody. I think the thing, we've not mentioned Robert and Saul's journey with the neighbors, one that Saul and or Robert thinks is closeted gay himself, and the woman, his beard that he's just living with. But also this gets brought to bear because Allison wants to have a home birth. Frankie wants to help her deliver it. We didn't even talk about the lame gender party. Frankie wants to help her deliver it, or the girl who ends up being Faith, the granddaughter. And an orangutan escapes the zoo, and the police put the neighborhood on lockdown, and Robert and Saul and Grace and Frankie and these two neighbors are all trapped in Robert and Saul's house together.
So much happened in this season.
And
I feel like because it's Allison, just literally everything about that pregnancy, from the gender reveal scavenger hunt to the home birth to literally everything, is just so ridiculous and over the top because it fits her.
Right. This is where her being her actually does bear some fruit, because I don't think it bore any in season 3. Literally or figuratively. So there.
Didn't Frankie convince her to have the home birth?
I don't know that Frankie... I don't remember Frankie...
He lightly suggested it, but then it's like Allison ran with it.
Yeah. Frankie...
Which amplified the two.
Right. Frankie very much wanted to be a part of it. That's why she suggested it. But I think Allison, she was just... Well, actually, you're right. I think Allison had to be talked into it because she's afraid of all of her illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't she want the hospital at first?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, either way, it was in a waiting pool in Bud and her's apartment. And Frankie made it because Frankie and Saul, escaped. Just like the orangutan. Did you see the parallel? I sure did. So much happened.
I'm glad she was there for that. It was such an odd scene. God, it was weird, but it was.
Yep.
I'm glad she was there for it.
That's why Lily Tomlin is perfect for this character. So it just plays into all of the very good ingredients mixed together into a special sauce.
And I did definitely, on the way to work the other day, sing the song that Lily Tomlin sings to the baby.
Which is?
I will not repeat it because it will get stuck in your head forever, and I don't remember all the exact words. But it's adorable, and I'm pretty sure she must have improv'd that because it was just it felt too spontaneous.
Or maybe she's just that good.
That could be too. I mean, she is the late comer. Yeah. #queen.
#queen. And footnote, Robert's theater career progresses as he is Harold Hill in the Music Man, which is not my favorite show, but whatever. But that's because the cast lead falls off the stage and breaks his legs. So, for those of you in the theater
And Peter Gallagher helps him learn the words to Trouble.
It's true. At a funeral, no less. Any wishes, hopes, or predictions, since Grace and Frankie has been renewed for season 5? What would you like to see in the next season, other than we've got one prediction that Nick bought the beach house?
Well, before we move on to season 5, the one thing that I wish they had expanded on more in season 4 is how Brianna managed to win back Barry.
Oh, I agree.
Oh, we can't forget Barry. Samantha's got hearts.
I know there's always heart emojis with Barry, but he was so definitively like, this isn't going to work. And she was like, no, this isn't me. That's one of those backstories of the kids where I wish they wouldn't have skipped ahead of like, oh, now everything's great and we're together. I would have liked to
because
see
he was dating somebody, right?
And then
he was dating somebody.
Then he came back and he started working for, say, Grace's biggest competitor.
Yep.
Yeah, so I wish we would know, like, how she did it.
Yeah. Well, we also didn't mention that the biggest competitor, i.e. her nemesis, is trying
It's from Veronica's Closet.
Yeah.
Right? Or was she from Just Shoot Me?
Who played this person? I think she was from Veronica's Closet. It would make sense since Marta created that one. I don't know, though. But her nemesis is trying to buy out Say Grace. That's what I was trying to say.
So, and that's one of those...
Speaking of Say Grace, my prediction for season 5 is that, well, hopefully, anyway, that Brianna can fix it, and then Grace finally trusts her with the company in a more affirmative way, even if it means going against her mother's wishes in the short term, just because it would be nice to solidify things for Brianna just a little bit and not have, okay, well, now her boyfriend's a problem, and now her work is a problem, and going back and forth like that.
I liked how, as the seasons progressed, we've gotten more into the backstory of the kids, and they feel like a more natural part of the show instead of just these people reacting to what's happening with their parents. But at the same time, like I said, we have these jumps in time, and as nice as that was for when they were in the nursing home to skip over that just because it would get old so fast, there's parts that I feel like we're missing out on by there not being a greater focus on the kids.
And that's interesting because when I was reading some reactions to this particular season, a lot of people were like, why is it focused so much on the kids? Like, I think that there's an improvement, but yeah, there's definitely little pockets that they skipped over. I do appreciate that they're developing those stories because I feel like we need to know about those characters. They're a huge part of Will and Grace's life, and now that there's the grandchild and there's grandchildren in the show, but now there's this new baby. Obviously, they're going to respond to that, so we need to know more about the characters.
Do you mean Grace and Frankie's life? Because you said Will and Grace.
Yeah. I said meant Grace and Frankie. Isn't that funny?
Yes.
Yeah. Wrong show, wrong podcast.
Do you know something about what's coming up on that other show?
What? No.
Tim Bagley will appear in both places. That's probably what we know for sure.
So epic crossover.
That's probably where I heard it from. Like, where did we get that? Oh yeah, we mentioned that. I read that. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yes, Grace and Frankie, the two women that we're talking about.
Right. I don't know that I missed the backstories as much for the couple parts. Sometimes I think I thought the balance of the kids in season 4 was just enough. I didn't have it too much. I didn't have it too little. I had more of a, okay, at least there's something there. Bud and Allison gave Frankie a lot of motivation, so I couldn't fault that. I'm, again, least impressed by Mallory as a character, so not watching her would be my preference, but she's established, so I don't think they can just ignore her. So I don't know that I have a strong feeling either way on that, but I get both sides of the story, or both sides of the coin laid out so articulately there. But any predictions for season 5, or are you just, other than the one, or you're just done with the predictions?
It's hard to say.
Yeah, it is hard.
So many twists and turns. It's really hard to pin down what we think might happen.
Well, I'm interested to see if anything more happens with Jacob, or if he's just done. If he's done.
That's true.
I hope he's not done. I really like him.
Me too.
Me too.
And one of the things that I've been wondering about with Coyote and his tiny house, why Mallory continues, other than the child care component, to let him park in front of her house. So I feel like there's some unfinished feelings there, especially as he gets into that relationship with the gal from NA.
Yeah, well, that was kind of confirmed.
Something
Mallory,
developed there.
yeah, it was kind of confirmed that Mallory still has feelings for him. And then it's when she sees him with that girl, was it Nadia?
Yes.
From AA, that she has that like broken-hearted moment seeing them together.
I would like them to develop that. I think that's actually one of the clunkier parts of the show, is that they keep hinting at this and they don't really show us any history when it comes to Mallory and Coyote. So even whether or not they put them together in the end, I don't know if I have a strong feeling, because again, I'm not a big fan of Mallory individually, and then Coyote, he's just so earnest, and Ethan Embry does, such a wonderfully charming performance that I don't have a stake in that feast, but I do want to see at least some more of the backstory, because it's all been hints and allegations, and they drop it for forever, then they bring it back up again in random points. It's kind of hard to keep caring about that unless they do something with it.
I feel like there was a flashback in season 1, and now I want to go back and watch and see.
Yeah, there was. There was a bunch of flashbacks, like when Mallory was having the first grandbaby, and there was something else along those lines, too, with it.
I'd like a flashback to the incident.
Yeah, there was.
The precursors to the incident.
Yeah.
That's what I'm more talking about, because it's been mostly spotty otherwise, so.
I did find something kind of neat about season 5, though, if you guys want to hear.
Sure.
So, one of the big guest stars for season 5 is going to be RuPaul himself.
Ooh.
He's going to portray a character named Benjamin Leday, a formidable and quick-witted adversary who faces off with Grace and Frankie. So that's what we got.
Ooh, the intrigue.
Well,
Mhm.
that is amazing.
Yep. Yeah, so that's the only thing I can find about season 5, though.
Yeah, it probably won't drop until 2019, so spoilers are probably going to be pretty scarce for now.
Yeah, I mean, and that article was from February 14th of this year.
Yeah, so.
So it's been a while.
To quote Drag Race, Yas seen, Yas come through.
Krista quoted Drag Race. I think we have to now ask, are you going to keep watching Grace and Frankie?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
All
Yes.
right. And as of the end of season 4, would you still recommend this show to others?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
But not your parents, Krista? Still a little too naughty for them?
Yeah, they're really, it's a situation.
So if you have friends and loved ones who aren't going to be put off by vibrators used by the septuagenarian crowd or other of these situations, this is such a recommendable show. It's just so much fun.
Most recently, I've been watching it with my dad, and you would think, based on especially the content of the later seasons, it would be so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's so funny.
She said, yeah.
I wouldn't watch this show with my parents either.
My mom would be totally... I actually did sit her down, and I mean, it was late, and she kind of started to fall asleep, but not because of the show. She watched, like, the first 2 or 3 episodes, and I'm like, you need to get yourself a Netflix subscription. She was laughing the whole time, and
Yeah.
there were no such restrictions on our television viewing. That's kind of how they talk anyway, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom she would be in stitches. She would just love it.
Yeah. So I think definitely for parents, and then maybe, just the friends that would enjoy it. Although many of them are on this panel. So, anything else you want to say about seasons 3 and 4 of Grace and Frankie, or what you hope to see in season 5? Hearing nothing, what I would like to do at this time is thank Amie, Krista, Kristen, and Samantha for joining me once again to talk about Grace and Frankie, specifically these latter 2 seasons. And of course, because I thank them and I thank you for listening, I also have to do this. CPU was produced by Backpacker Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, and hails from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, would you take the time to rate us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play? That means give some stars, comments, reviews. Tell us how we're doing, because we want to know, and we also like to talk to you. And we want you to talk to us. That's what it's all about. If you have suggestions on shows we might consider, contact us at our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, via email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, or via Facebook and Twitter. Though, of course, we add new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time. We have several more new episodes coming down the pike. We always do. And if you missed the old ones or want to know what we cover in general beyond Grace and Frankie, just find us. We're everywhere. You can search for us on Google. They like us. Subscribe to our website, our channels, our social media. Stay up on new events and episodes. Until the next time, all available seasons of Grace and Frankie are available to stream on Netflix. Again, I'm looking for my free subscription Netflix. Call me. We'll have lunch. In the meantime, our Grace and Frankie panel will next reconvene following the release of the 5th season, the date of which has not yet been announced, which will most likely drop in 2019. Keep a weathered eye to CPU for all the deets. In the meantime, and until next episode, new episodes published every Wednesday. Keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned.
Bye-bye.
That was oddly in unison.